post-filming Shaft here, spinning around in his room. I do a lot of blathering in this video. I hope y'all can forgive me. Look, just stick around to the ending. I just wanted to make sure that y'all know I talk way too much. I got way too comfortable with y'all. It's your fault. Enjoy.
What's up, everyone? It's Shaft, aka That Mill Guy, coming at you with my 2020 year-end review of the Mill archetype. Just like I did last year, but a little bit higher quality, a little bit better, whatever. We're gonna have some more parameters this time around, kind of looking at sets individually and how they've affected Mill, and just looking at different things that Mill has wanted to improve, where we're at with existing aspects of the deck, and kind of stuff like that, one step at a time. But also, at the end of the video, I have a surprise for everyone. I've worked with a couple of content creators and familiar faces in the Mill community to, have them give me a short little clip of what they believe is their favorite Mill card in 2020, well, printed in 2020, and that's going to be at the end of the video. So we will take a look at where Mill is at the end of 2020, and maybe we'll talk about some of my expectations going into 2021, or what I'm looking for. So before we go into the deep dive discussion, I just want to give a quick shout out to 2019. I've already done a 2019 Mill review, and I encourage you to check that out. Link's going to be on the screen somewhere right now. And with that year past, we've had a lot of changes to the play design of Magic, and I don't want to go too deep into it. That's not the point of this video, but I think looking back at it, we've come into the archetype in 2020 with a bit of a mixed bag. I think there's been a lot of positives. There was a lot of things that we can't deny helped the archetype, but then obviously Magic, primarily Modern, where a lot of you channel viewers are at, and a lot of where the Mill archetype really stands. It's gone through a tumultuous year. Gone through a lot of changes, felt like a lot of rotations, and we're here kind of going into 2020, new year, and obviously we didn't expect the world to change the way it did, and we've been kind of adapting from there on out. But kind of looking at that aside, let's start from the top. Let's go set by set in 2020, okay? So first off, we are talking about Theros Beyond Death. If you look at it as a whole, the set was pretty weak as a whole set. There's really 5 to 6 cards that have fundamentally changed Magic as a whole, and then the rest of the set's like borderline draft chaff. I'm talking about Kroxa, Cling to Dust, Uro, Underworld Breach, and Thassa's Oracle. So Kroxa is still a very, I would say Kroxa's and Cling to Dust is one of the, some of the more fair cards out of everything we just renamed. They're more so staples as to where they are. Cling to Dust being one of the more versatile black cards ever printed in Magic's history, in my opinion. Just never being a dead card, can always just redraw, provides value in the late game, and allowing you to reuse your graveyard, great in the aggressive matchups for gaining you some life. Just great in all ends. Kroxa providing that long-term value, or outvaluing your opponent, forcing them to discard their cards and lose life. Just kind of great value piece for decks like Jund and maybe some Rakdos decks to use their graveyard. So that's great. Moving on, next we have Underworld Breach, which... so these are all Mill cards, by the way. Underworld Breach, self-mill is Mill. And Underworld Breach, I think all I really need to mention is that it fundamentally broke Legacy in half. So I'm going to leave it there. It's a powerful card. Okay? Powerful card. Thassa's Oracle. Probably, now it might come as a surprise to many of you, Thassa's Oracle is probably my favorite Mill card printed in 2020. Might seem a little sacrilegious. But honestly, I think Thassa's Oracle has fundamentally changed Magic in general. I think that the concept of self-mill has changed thanks to Thassa's Oracle. It has opened up so many more avenues of win. Shout out to creators like Nikachu, still fighting the good fight with Thassa's Oracle, where Nikachu's Splinter Fin deck, link to that down below, of course, where he uses a kind of 2-3 card combo to self-mill and then just play Thassa's Oracle for the win, right? And that's happening as of the last month in 2020. So this card's still happening. And look, if you needed another example of it, if you weren't aware of the CEDH reaction to Thassa's Oracle, you can go look at that. There's a reason that card has fundamentally changed EDH in general. And really the final card I want to bring up here is Uro, Titan of Nature's Wrath. Still warping every single format it's legal in, except for maybe Vintage. But it's warping, it's doing stuff to Legacy. It's format warping in Modern. It is the defining creature, in archetypes like Historic. It's crazy. And, I'm going to toot my own horn here as someone who has fundamentally sharpened and honed the Sultai Mill archetype by introducing Uro into it. Uro's insane. Uro can really be played in anything, and it does a lot. I think Uro has had the second greatest change to the Mill archetype. I would argue Thassa's Oracle has had the greatest change to the Mill archetype in general, because I have to include Self-Mill in the Mill archetype. So, in terms of the changes that Theros Beyond Death has had on the Mill archetype, 10 out of 10. 10, 10. It has changed Magic, it has changed Mill, it has changed everything. Theros Beyond Death. Personal favorite of mine because I started playing Magic in original Theros. So, it's cool to see that. Starting off the year with Return of Theros was really cool. And a small shout out before we move on to the return of Ashiok as a primary story piece. Ashiok, looking through Elspeth's mind in the underworld, found Phyrexia. When Elspeth was tortured by the Phyrexians, Elspeth found Phyrexia, Ashiok found Phyrexia and went to go look for Phyrexia. That is probably one of the top 5 moments for me in Magic in the last couple of years. I am so fundamentally excited for Phyrexian Ashiok, for Ashiok to... I don't believe that Ashiok has genuine evil intent. I think Ashiok is a very self-motivated type of character, and really is curious as to the ingenuity of the Phyrexians and might, unintentionally release them into the Magic universe, and I'm here for it. I'm so here for it. So I'm super excited for that, and hopefully we can see some inkling of that in 2021 and a lot less Oko Thief of Crowns. But unfortunately it doesn't look like that, judging by some of the Kaldheim spoilers, but we're not here to talk about that. Moving along, I want to talk about Ikoria, Lair of Behemoths. This is an emotional bag for a lot of people. I know. Look, I'm not going to go too deep into this. Look, shout out. Let me give a massive shout out to the Triomes. I actually really love these lands. I think just outside of Mill, shout out to finding a way to actually make these lands playable. These cards are staples in Pioneer, Historic, and Standard where they're at. They're very playable in Modern as well. They're fetchable. They're very great turn 1 and kind of ramp targets when you're trying to play that 4th land off of an Uro or that 3rd land off of a Growth Spiral. They're great, right? To just kind of play tapped. It's shout out to them. I think it's a great, fantastic land cycle. But companions. Look, I think we need to frame this by saying that the change that Ikoria Lair of Behemoths has had on Mill is again, 10 out of 10. Whether that be for the positive or negative is something that's up to you. I think that it is a net positive in the long term after the companion fix. We've obviously kind of first and foremost had Gyruda, which was a mill combo deck, self-milling, being able to work through stuff like Leyline of the Void and Graveyard Hate to clone itself and ultimately go for a mill win condition if it needs to, or just create a bunch of clones of creatures and attack in with a creature that provides haste. It's very easy that way, so it was nice. And that was able to thrive in some, in Modern and Pioneer and stuff like that. But second of all, I want to talk about Yorion. Yorion is still a prolific card to this day, and obviously it's not as crazy as it used to be, but it's still a very value-oriented card, and a lot of people will play Yorion decks for some reason, but I want to bring it up because a lot of people said that decks like Yorion would actually make it a lot more difficult for Mill, but I would actually argue that the Yorion decks are much easier. So let's say a Yorion control deck is a lot easier to face than a non-Yorion control deck, because with a lower card count in your deck, your card quality is increased. That makes sense mathematically. But of course, with 20 more cards added, your average card quality is a lot less. And so that makes it a lot easier for us as Mill players to enact our plan, to resolve our spells, to do our thing, because we can mill just off of our base deck more than 100 cards. So 60 cards isn't a problem, and 80 cards is, 73 cards, draw your 7, is a lot less of a problem too. So we can get there as a mill archetype, and the Yorion control decks have actually been, again, a favored matchup. And finally touching on Luros, I don't want to go into this card a lot. We've all had our traumatic moments. I feel like I'm triggering people by bringing up Luros. But the good thing is that past the companion changes, Luros to this day is actually right now. Shout out to BlitzMTG and Winged Hussar for pioneering this list. But Luros is part of the fundamental card to a lot of the top placing mill list right now. The 5-0 lists and the Modern Challenge and the prelim lists, and a lot of the decks that you're seeing that are placing high up have Luros. And so the value of being able to recur your crabs, recur your Mesmericorps, and gain that value through stuff like Mesmericorp filling your own yard has actually been relatively valuable. And it's caused some divide. People prefer, myself included, prefer to play Ashiok Dreamrender. Some people actually also like to add Ensnaring Bridge, and we've actually had a recent, in the last month, a top 8 placing mill list that played 3 Ensnaring Bridge. So people do prefer this, prefer not playing with Luros, but I think Luros has been a net positive right now as the year has gone on for Mill. So again, 10 out of 10. A lot of format defining changes, but those were, kind of in the grand scheme of things, very quickly nipped in the butt by Wizards. And now Luros is able to have a positive impact on the Mill archetype. So that's really great. And before we kind of hop into the big set that has changed Modern in general, I want to give a quick shout out to Jumpstart. Jumpstart providing a big boost to the Arena client for Mill, especially with the Amonkhet set not providing Fraying Sanity for some reason. Shout out to Wizards for being an absolute terrible company in that case. I don't know why we don't have Fraying Sanity, by the way, in Arena. We have Bruvac, but okay. Bruvac has its positive and negatives. Bruvac has been great for obviously a lot of combo aspects of Mill and just providing a way for Mill to compete, really. Just doubling up Mill effects has been fantastic. Obviously, pre-Ruin Crab, Bruvac has had a big impact, again, doubling cards, but also providing a game-winning engine, providing a great blocker. 1/4 is actually really great on board, being able to block 3 power, 2 power, 1 power, whatever stuff on the board. So it's been great in that aspect, but again, it has a lot of downsides compared to Fraying Sanity, remembering that Fraying Sanity is an enchantment, one of the more difficult permanent types to deal with alongside Planeswalkers. So again, Bruvac being a creature in a format where, like Historic, where Fatal Push has just been introduced, Bruvac has a very hard time sticking to the board. So I think Fraying Sanity would have been a much better inclusion, but we're here, and I'm happy for Bruvac. So again, 10 out of 10 just because of the new card. New card introduced, shifting Arena Mill in general, and hey, providing some aspect of Mill for Legacy. Bruvac has been played as a one-of in Legacy Dimir Mill list, and it's great, it's value, so why not? Finally, the set that y'all have been wanting me to talk about, Zendikar Rising. I could scream to the rooftop with joy, but I want to keep things a little bit settled. Let's keep the structure going. This has been a 20 out of 10. Double, like it has been, this has been the single best set for Mill since the origin, probably, of Magic the Gathering. This has been the single best set for Mill. As Mill has grown into an archetype slowly and we've established ourselves as a playable and workable archetype, Ruin Crab and Maddening Cacophony came along to submit and cement ourselves as a tier 1 archetype, and that I think that is objectively true, that Mill is a tier 1 archetype. I don't think anyone can argue with me otherwise. It is a very competitive list as per a lot of the recent successes. If you go on Goldfish right now and look up a deck that's playing Visions of Beyond, you will find a lot of Mill lists placing in the challenges in the ever since Zendikar Rising came along. We had a Modern Challenge win with Mill. We had a lot of top 8s. We have a lot of 5-0s. Mill is thriving. Mill is thriving. Mill is in the best place it has been thanks to Zendikar Rising in years. And A lot of that is going to come to some of the aspects I'm going to talk to later, but really primarily due to these cards. And of course, the meta has evolved to and adapted, I should say, with shuffle effects, and that's okay. It's okay for the meta to adapt. Mill can't just go unopposed. A lot of people said, you know, oh, I can't play Mill anymore. There's so much hate for it. Oh, I don't want to think about it. Look, you have to adapt yourself. You know, if you're playing kitchen table Magic and you are playing a combo deck and your kitchen table friend finally plays counter Magic and you just give up on your combo, no, you play interaction. You play stuff that stops their counter spells. You may play stuff that forces your opponent to only play on their turn or pay more for counter spells and stuff. Like, you have to counter interact. And obviously we've been able to do that right now. Again, shout out to Winged and Blitz for playing stuff like Soul Guide Lantern. Soul Guide Lantern being the versatile counterpart to Cling to Dust in many ways, where Cling to Dust is much better in aggressive metas where we're able to gain some life and draw cards. Soul Guide Lantern is fantastic in graveyard heavy and anti-mill metas where you're able to shuffle away, you're able to exile away shuffle effects, but also in the matchups where you don't need it, you play in main board, you can just sack it away and draw a card. And of course, you're playing Luros most of the time, so you can recur it. And it's just been fantastic in that aspect. Before we go into the specific traits of Mill, though, I'm going to kind of close off on Zendikar Rising to giving a quick shout out to some stuff like Bloodchief's Thirst, providing finally a way for Black and Mill in general to deal with early game creatures, Wrenn and 6, and Planeswalkers in the late game. I think Bloodchief's Thirst has been a slam dunk in Mill, and of course it was predicted to be a slam dunk in archetypes like Pioneer and Historic, very much so, because of how much slower and grindier they are, and it's made a change in Mill. So shout out to that. And then also shout out to the modal double-faced cards. I think that's a very interesting kind of design space to explore. We've had the onset of the Belcher decks and the Oops All Spells decks that have really, you know, Oops All Spells looks like it's going to be a format staple in Modern. It's going to be up there with Dredge as one of the top graveyard strategies, one of the decks you have to look out for. So now the argument for something like Soul Guide Lantern goes up, it skyrockets. So, you know, happy to see stuff like that explored. So obviously, Zendikar Rising again, 20 out of 10, 30 out of 10, 100 out of 10, the best set for Mill in general, finally cementing the Modern Mill archetype as a tier 1 archetype and a force to be reckoned with. So moving right along, I want to talk about some of the characteristics of Mill. Has Mill improved? And has Mill taken steps back? So let's talk about where Mill has improved. So first and foremost, Mill has improved with having more redundancy. Hedron Crab has been one of the best Mill spells that the archetype has to offer, and now we have another copy of it. A copy that blocks better and gets around hexproof effects. We now have a Glimpse the Unthinkable that is easier on the mana base and gets around hexproof effects. So Mill has improved. There's been a lot of great payoffs in that case. Well, I shouldn't say payoffs, that's the wrong word. There's been a lot of improvements and upgrades in a way to cards that we are already playing, so it feels like the deck is cemented. But where has the archetype been set back? Well, I think that the payoffs have just grown laterally. I think that's the best way I can put it. I put a video on my channel, and a link to the video is going to be on screen somewhere, where I believe Visions of Beyond is the single greatest card in the Mill deck. I think that is, again, this is a objective opinion, that objectively speaking, Visions of Beyond is the best card because it is literally Ancestral Recall in Modern. You just need to play Mill. It's 1 mana, instant speed, draw 3 cards. And we haven't really had a payoff like that that really lines up with where Modern is right now. Visions of Beyond, its value has never really gone away. Now, Drown the Lock has arguably been a parallel to that. It has been that level of high payoff, and it was end of last year. Unfortunately, Modern and Magic has evolved past that, where Drown the Lock is very difficult. Escaped Uros can hate out your graveyards. So it's very difficult for archetypes like that to really succeed. Cards like that to really succeed. So I don't think we've actually improved in terms of payoffs. We've just milled more and milled more efficiently. And I think we need our interaction has definitely improved. Again, Cling to Dust, Blood Chief's Thirst, Soul Guide Lantern. Our interaction has improved, but I think Mill needs to improve in its payoffs. I'm looking for another version of Visions of Beyond. I am looking for still a Crypt Incursion that affects instant and sorceries so I can finally just beat the red decks. Prowess and Burn, I can finally find something against them without going into another color and playing like Life Goes On or Weather the Storm and Sultide just to beat red decks. I don't want to do that. Sometimes I just want to play Dimir and have an answer. So I think that's what I want. I think that's the biggest thing that I'm looking for in Mill going into 2021. I want a big improvement in the payoffs that Mill has. Every single archetype feels like that they're getting better payoffs and that their decks aren't really getting better. It's just they're getting better payoffs. And you know what? I can't complain because I think we've reached a point in Modern Mill where the archetype it's at its peak. This is as good as it's going to get as a base deck. Just a forward acting plan. Now, I'm asking Wizards of the Coast to give Mill the final payoff that it needs. The Visions of Beyond, the new Crypt Incursion, the new Drown in the Loch that it needs to become the broken and crazy deck that it needs to be. I'm asking Wizards of the Coast to give Mill its Uro. To give Mill its payoff. That's what I'm looking for in 2021 from Mill. Now, I'm going to end off my section of the video here, and I hope you've enjoyed the review so far. Right after this, we're going to get, again, my favorite section that I've alluded to in the beginning of the video. You're going to be seeing some familiar faces, a little bit of humor about different content creators and different big faces in Mill and what they believe what they think their favorite card is for Mill in 2020. And it has to be a card printed in 2020. So check that out. I'm excited for y'all to check it out. But let me know what you think of the review. Let me know if you believe that Mill is actually had a net positive, that Mill is in the best place it can be at the end of 2020. I am really looking forward to Mill in 2021. I'm looking for that final payoff. And again, Mill is a tier 1 deck. Mill is in the best place that it's been since the inception of Magic. This is a bit of a renaissance. It is the best time to be playing Mill, being a Mill player, and just, for myself being that Mill guy. It's been a crazy past couple of months. Thank you, Zendikar Rising. Thank you, Wizards of the Coast. I am looking forward to 2021 for Mill. If Zendikar Rising is anything to say about that, and we'll see what the year has to bring to us. But I'm going to leave you to the content creators. You're done hearing my voice. Remember that even the impossible is possible. And as we ponder that thought, I hope you'll join me next time as we take a glimpse into the unthinkable.
Hi there, it's Alex, your local milk grinder from Germany. And Chef asked me what is my favorite milk card deck of printed this year. And as the nomination is kinda obvious, I want to start with an honorable mention, which is in my case Blood Chief's First. This card is a nice addition to our interaction toolkit and does a fantastic job in supporting Fatal Push. And that said, I want to move to the real nomination, which is, to no surprise, the Ruin Crab. This crabby boy immediately saved a slot in the main deck and is just the addition that Mill needed to finally board the tier 1 ship. The only question that is now still unclear to me is, which one is the better artwork?
This is Stickballruss, and my pick for most unique and impactful Mill card for 2020, besides Ruin Crab, is Maddening Cacophony. The card is very similar to Glimpse the Unthinkable, but it has a few differences. Number one, the mana cost. One blue and one colorless is very different than one blue and one black. It allows you to actually play a blue-white, blue-green, blue-red, actually, mill game. You don't have to use black now that we have Maddening Cacophony. It doesn't target, should I say, so it gets around Leyline and Veil of Summer, and it has Kicker, which in some of the grindy games can be very relevant. So for that reason, obviously the Crab is the best card we got in 2020. However, my pick for impactful card and unique card for Mill is Maddening Cacophony. Thank you.
Hi, this is Maxime, better known as Coomback on MTGO and Discord. So for me, the best card for Mill in 2020 is Maddening Cacophony. Because first of all, it's very versatile in your Mill list, because you are more flexible with the mana base, and also in your U-White or Mono Blue version. Then you can dodge the X-Proof card effect, like Veil of Summer, the best card in the model actually, and also the Line of Sanctity. And then the funniest part with this card is the combo kill with Fraying Sanity. It's just insane. So thank you, and don't forget to follow the Krabby Crew to mill them all.
Hello Mill community, Delthar here. Chef asked me to make a quick video about my favorite Mill card from last year, and I picked Maddening Cacophony. I picked Maddening because Maddening enables Mill to play some other color than blue-black as primary colors. Of course, blue-black is still the best color, so there's no difference there. But let's say there's a meta with a lot of Gurmag Anglers, Reality Smashers, and other stuff that Fatal Push can't kill. Then we might want to go into white for Path to Exile or Winds of Abandon or Settle the Wreckage or something similar. Let's say the land decks become super heavy meta. Then we could go into red for Cleansing Wildfire, the card that kills a land, they shuffle, you draw a card. Sounds really good. So, I picked Maddening Cacophony, not because the power level itself in the card, but for what it enables Mill to do in the future. We know how to look at all colors and all the new cards rather than just blue-black. Thank you.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Ghost here. So when Chef asked me what my favorite card was for Mill in 2020, my mind obviously went to Ruin Crab. And then I was trying to think if there was anything else I could say that really compared to it, but coming down to it, 3 defense, gets around ley lines, it is literally the perfect card for us. So I hate to be that basic, I guess you could say it again, but my choice is Ruin Crab. Thanks, guys.
Oh, hey there. I'm BlitzMTG. Some of you may know me as the guy who recently sold his soul for a couple of challenge top 8s. But fear not, I'm on a mission to find it again. And with my trusty lantern here to guide me, I'm bound to find my way. Now, if you're a Mill player like me, and need of some wins and magic, then, you can go and do some soul searching of your own and snag 4 copies of Soul Guide Lantern. Only a recent addition to Mill decks, Lantern has proven to be very formidable in today's modern meta. Not only does it deal with pesky recurring 2020 design mistakes, you know which ones, and 1-card combos, but has the added flexibility of cantripping when needed, so it's rarely ever dead. It's also recurable value with the help of a certain 3-mana feline friend. And with Soul Guide Lantern being for the low price of 1 mana, you get your graveyard hate 2 turns earlier than if you depended on Ashiok. And it having an ETB and cantrip, it multitasks far better than Ravenous Trap or Tormod's Crypt. I tell you, Soul Guide Lantern is one of the best cards printed in 2020 for Mill. Oh, jeez. Look at the time. Back to soul searching. Until next time.
Hello, this is Fluffy, and I've been asked by that Mill guy, what is my favorite beat Mill card in 2020? Well, that's pretty obvious. It's Blood Moon from Double Masters, the reprinting the promo art. They asked for your favorite Mill card, not what beats it. Oh, well, then obviously it's Blood Moon from Red Mill. Fluffy, that's not a Mill card. Yeah, it is. Why else would that Mill guy ask me to give feedback? I built Red Mill for exactly this video. It's because you played Rogue Mill and 8 Crab Mill and all those other Mill decks recently. Oh. You mean the fact that I kind of like that 8 Crab Luris build, or the recent Rogue Mill list was pretty cool? That's what they're asking for? Yes. Ah, all right. So favorite 2020 mill card or supporting mill card here would probably be Underworld Breach. Underworld Breach allows you to escape cards, which is a mechanic I've really enjoyed in 2020, and with a bit of self-mill strategy, something that you're probably not initially thinking as a mill player, you could combo out or do something pretty brutal to your opponents. So Underworld Breach here, yeah, it's a red card, and with a little bit of self-mill, could be your mill card for 2020.